Hello friends, my name is Sangram. Let's learn Data Factory today. So Data Factory is a cloud service within Azure which helps you to perform ETL or ELT operations. So using Data Factory, you would be able to connect to many Azure services like Databricks, SQL Server, Azure SQL, Cosmos DB, and so on. And it also helps to connect to many external systems like SAP or few AWS resources as well. And let's go ahead in the portal and create a Data Factory resource.
So this is the portal. Let's create a data factory. Type in data factory in the search box. Then click on add. So my subscription is already selected. Let's pick up a resource group. If you don't have one, create a new one. Type in the name of the resource group. Click on OK. Your new resource group would be created. And let's select region. So I would select East US as a data center for me. So this data factory would be ultimately deployed to this data center. Let's name the data factory. And then let's select a version v1 or version v2. So if I select v1, so it will be very much verbose in nature, and as part of data factory evolution it started with v1 and then ultimately it is currently v2. So when it was v1, we used to write pipeline and data set in the form of JSON code. So if you modify your piece of code, then you have to type in that respective key value property of JSON, and your pipelines and data sets would be formulated. But things got easier after v2 came into picture. So in v2 you have to just drag and drop few properties, set up few properties, and your pipeline and datasets would be formulated. So let's go ahead and pick up v2. Select git configuration as the next option here, and then I would check this option to configure git later. But this git is used for your team to get collaborated with respect to this data factory. So multiple team members can work on the same data factory at the same time if you have Git integrated with your data factory. So I would make a alternate video for Git integration with data factory. Then go to tags. So we understand the significance of tags, right? So if I put a tag with team name and the value as payments, and then let's say I'm doing the same thing for 5 different resources, so total of 6 resources have the same tag, then later when the billing comes up, I would know that okay, for those set of resources with the same tag gets this much about and this much amount of billing amount. Okay, let's go ahead and review plus create, and the validation would be run and then it is passed. So let me go ahead and create a data factory resource. So the deployment has started, and you can see the message submitting deployment, and deployment is underway. So let's speed it up. And you can see the deployment is complete. Let's go to the resource. So this is the data factory which got deployed, and we can see some additional properties. So under the overview section, you can see some properties like resource group where this data factory is present, and then the location of this data factory and few other information. If I scroll down, I can click on this link to watch out for some documentation about data factory. And this is important, author and monitor. So this will take us to a different page where we need to really build our ETL pipelines. So we'll come here later. And coming to activity log, any change in properties or anything that you do in this data factory would be logged here. And coming to access control, so there are 3 types of security context: user, group, and service principal. If I want someone to access this data factory, I would go to role assignment, click on add role assignment, and then select a particular role. So owner, contributor, reader, and there are many more roles. So if I talk about owner, if I assign a user, group, or service principal owner permission, it means that security context would be able to do anything and everything within this data factory, including provisioning access. But if I make contributor as a role, then everything that an owner can do except provisioning access. And if I make reader, then it means that that user, group, or service principal would just be able to see the data factory but cannot change anything. Okay, I would pick up contributor for now, and I would select a particular user. I have a user called it's Loki. Select this and then click on save. Now you can see the notification tab adding role assignment. Loki is being added as contributed for DemoBits ADF. And Loki is added. So you can see Loki is contributor, and now if Loki is logging in into this data factory account, then he would be able to see this data factory. And similar way, we can add use groups and service principal the same way. Okay, and tags. So while creating the data factory, we saw the tags option. If you want to add more tags, you can do so over here. And diagnose and solve problems. All the regular problems that are encountered on a day-to-day basis, you can always come here and watch out for a solution. And then scroll down, go to networking, and I would keep it the same way. Allow public network access is enabled. And you can come to properties to watch out for some other properties, like what is the resource ID for this data factory. This is very important property. If you're trying to connect through external system, the resource ID would be handy for you. And then coming to logs, so I can put two kind of logs, that is read log and delete log. So if I put read only log, then no one would be able to modify anything for this data factory. And if I put delete log, it means I'm not allowing anyone to delete this particular data factory. That is the intention behind delete log. And then there is a getting started. Under getting started, you can see quick start. So you can again watch out for some documentation, and there is some tutorial guide and tutorial video about any data factory that you build. And then there is a section called as alert, metrics, and diagnostic setting. I would directly move to diagnostic setting because that is all integrated with these two alerts and metrics. So what is the purpose of diagnostic setting? So when we run our data factory pipelines at a later point of time, if we get a failure, we want to get notified immediately. So for that purpose, we can always come here and set up some diagnostic setting. So I would make a different video to explain about diagnostic setting, and as and when there is a ETL pipeline failure, we would be receiving an email. So this basically serves as the starting point. I'll just brush you through this add diagnostic setting, and then you can see that whenever there is a activity run, pipeline run, or a trigger run, those logs would be sent to either log analytics workspace or to an storage account or to event hub. So I'll talk about this in a later video. And then there is an option called as new support request. So if you ever face any technical problems in terms of data factory, if you feel that there is a bug in the system, or if you want to increase the bandwidth of your network, then you can always raise a support ticket, and you will be reaching out to the technical support team of data factory. Okay, those are the overview properties of this particular data factory. Now let's move to author and monitor, where we'll see the workspace. Now clicking on author and monitor will take us to a different page where we see 4 tabs: overview, author, monitor, and manage. So under the overview section, you can see some tutorial documentation about data factory. Again, it has beautiful documentation. And then I'll directly go to manage tab. I would come to author tab in a while. So under author tab, you see there is an option called as integration runtime. Integration runtime defines our compute infrastructure. So there are various types of integration runtime. So there is a Azure integration runtime, self-hosted integration runtime, and Azure SSIS integration runtime. So if I pick up Azure integration runtime, I would be able to get connected to the PaaS services. PaaS is platform as a service. So what are the PaaS services? It's like connecting to storage account, Azure SQL, Databricks. So whatever is the PaaS service within Azure ecosystem, you would be able to get connected if you're using Azure integration runtime. And then what is self-hosted integration runtime? Let's say you have a SQL Server system which is running in a virtual machine, and that is basically your on-premise environment-based virtual machine. Then I would use self-hosted integration runtime to get connected to the SQL Server which is present in the virtual machine. And there is an option called as Azure SSIS integration runtime. So if you already have a certain number of SSIS packages which were running in your on-premise system earlier, I would be able to uplift all those SSIS packages to Azure using Azure SSIS integration runtime and later run it from Data Factory. So that is the purpose of this integration runtime. And then coming to link services. So link services helps you to connect to a particular resource. Like if I want to get connected to storage account, I can do so using link service. If I want to get connected to a database of SQL, I would be able to create a link service and get connected to SQL database. So that is link service for you. So you can click on new and then pick up a resource. Let's say I'm picking up Azure SQL. SQL database, continue, and you would fill in parameters like server name, database name, username, password, and you would get connected to your database. And then there is an option called as Git configuration. So while creating, we had selected the option configure Git later, and then we can again configure over here by selecting the proper GitHub account, and our data factory would be collaborated using Git. And then there is an option called as trigger. So the aim of our data factory is to build pipelines and run them on a day-to-day basis, right? So if you want to schedule the pipeline, then triggers will help us do so. So there are three types of trigger. There is a schedule trigger, there is a tumbling window trigger, and there's a third trigger called as event-based trigger. So schedule trigger, as the name implies, if you specify a particular schedule, it keeps on running during the specified time. But if I select tumbling window trigger, it runs at a non-overlapping interval. Let's say in a particular day, I want to run a particular pipeline every 6 hours. So I would select tumbling window trigger, and on a particular day, if it is taking 7 hours time for a particular pipeline run, then the next pipeline instance would wait for 1 more hour because the previous instance is still running, and then the execution continues. But if I select schedule trigger, it will not wait, and as soon as it reaches the 6th hour mark, it will start running the pipeline. So that's basically the difference between schedule trigger and tumbling window trigger. There is a third trigger called as event-based trigger. So let's say I'm putting a new file in my blob container, and then I want my pipeline to run. So that is basically an event-based trigger. So I would create certain videos for triggers, and I would explain that in depth. And there is an option called as global parameter. So again, the basic idea about data factory is to build pipelines, right? More number of pipelines. And if I want to maintain a single parameter for all these pipelines, then global parameter would help me do so. And then there's an option called as customer managed key. So if I want to encrypt our data factory using our own key, then I can click on add key, and I can put the key vault information over here, and our data factory would be encrypted using the key which is specified in Azure Key Vault. Okay, now let me go to the author section. So once link service is created under the management section, we can go ahead and create data set on top of link services. So let's take the context of SQL Server. So when we created link service for SQL, we got connected to the database. Now using dataset, if I click on new dataset, I would be able to get connected to a table within the database. So dataset sits on top of link services, where I would be able to create datasets for different resources. If I'm creating a dataset for SQL, it would be a table. If I create a dataset for Cosmos DB, it would be a collection, and so on and so forth. And now there is an option called as pipeline. So if I start creating pipeline, this is the place where I need to build our ETL pipelines. So there are a lot of activities, like you can see copy data activity, where you can transform data from source to sink. And then there'll be some get metadata activity, where I can understand what are the files present in a container and whether the file relay exists or not. And then there is a notebook activity, where I would be able to call a Databricks notebook. So this pipeline will help you orchestrate your ETL pipeline. And this is the data flow, where I would be able to apply a lot of data transformation logic, and that too using Apache Spark clusters as the backbone. And while the data is in motion, I can perform my joins, aggregations, projections, filtering, etc. So how would you create a data flow? Click on new mapping data flow, select the first option, data flow, click on OK. And then to start with, you need to select a particular source. The source can be anything like Azure SQL table, or a dataset or a CSV file which is present in storage account, and so on and so forth. And I will just highlight you what all activities you can use. So you can see here, we can perform some join operations, conditional split, like if you want to perform some actions for the birth year 2000 and lesser, so that flow will be different, and people with birth year greater than 2000 will have a different flow. Exist, union of two data sets, and if you want to look up to some data, you can do that here. And there are some other transformation, like you can create a new column while the data is in motion, and select, you can project only the columns which are required, do some aggregation, create a new surrogate key along with the data movement, and do pivoting, unpivoting, and then apply some grouping function, or rank, dense rank functions using window function, flatten rank, And then there are some row modifiers like filter, sort, alter row, where you would be able to upsert, delete some certain number of records, and then ultimately select a sync. So that is purely the data flow pipeline. And if you want to schedule a particular data flow pipeline, it has to be done through the regular data factory pipeline. So this is the overview of our data factory, which includes integration runtime, link services, dataset, pipeline, data flow, and triggers. And then there is another option called as monitor. And then under the monitor section, you would be able to see all the pipeline runs in the history. So if a particular pipeline is running every day twice, so I would be able to see 2 instances of the pipeline run at least for a particular day. And you can change the timestamps like last 7 days, last 30 days, and you can see all the logs if the pipeline have failed or succeeded. And then you can really come again to this monitoring section and then debug for a particular problem statement. So this is the monitoring section. So this is the overview of data factory entirely to start with. I'll be making few more videos where I would be explaining from use case perspective and I would be solving some problems. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe the channel. Happy learning.